9th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Time for the regular meeting for the for West Independent School District. Pursuant to Governor Abbott's temporary suspension of open meetings laws issued on March the 16th, 2020, this regular board meeting of the West ISD Board of Trustees will be conducted via video conference and telephone call. The video conference will be audible to the board and public and allow for two-way communication. The Board of Trustees will not be physically present in one location, but a quorum will be required for the meeting on the video conference or phone. A recording of the meeting will be available on the West ISD YouTube channel at www.westisd.net. The public may access this meeting at the link found on the West ISD calendar at www.westisd.net. A link to the online agenda is also available on the calendar post. Any public comments must be submitted between 8 a.m. on Monday, December the 7th and 4 p.m. on Tuesday, December the 8th of 2020 by emailing the contents to publiccomment@westisd.net. All public comments shall be submitted to this email address and will be read by the Board of Trustees for consideration. I call this meeting to order and verify that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This time, I would ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer, and the flag is there in Mr. Truitt's box, if you can see it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty God, our Father in heaven, we ask your blessing on our deliberations and meeting tonight. Be with those who are ill, comfort those individuals who have suffered or experienced loss. May our goals be worthy of your approval for the students and those that we serve and those who make up the West ISD School District. We ask this in the name above all names. Amen. Thank you. That brings us to agenda item number 5, which are recognitions. And I recognize Mr. Truitt up there in the screen. So David, will give it to you and let you take it away for these worthy individuals.
Thank you, Dr. Sparks. It's our favorite part of the agenda, and even with Zooming and COVID, we wanted to let you know about some news about some of our outstanding students and some recent accomplishments. Please know we have certificates, and we'll go by and honor them on their campus and get pictures for the paper and social media. But we didn't want to stop this tradition, and we wanted to make sure all of you knew great things that are happening across West ISD. After I made this list, I realized they were all high school accolades. So I've asked Principal Chuck Clander to share news about these awesome kiddos. So take it away, Chuck.
Thank you, Mr. Truitt. As you guys probably have seen, we've had some really great accomplishments so far this fall. We'll start off with some of our athletic teams and some of the accolades they've received. Starting with our volleyball team, they did their all-district picks, and with that, we had a couple of people that got some great super superlatives with that. So Dayla Woodard being one of those with a server of the year, which was a really big accolade because of just the strength of our district there. You can see the list of names there that we had 3 students that were first team all-district in volleyball, those being Haley Mailer, Kennedy Eubanks, and Marley Garrick. That we also had 3 students that were second team and 5 honorable mentions. So that was some great things for our girls volleyball team. From there, we look at our boys football team. Had some folks that also got some great superlatives there, with Trey Yannick getting offensive player of the year, and with the defensive lineman of the year being Jaden Anderson. So those were some really great things because, as you all know, really strong district there. We had 7 students athletes on the first team of the football all district selections. Those being Lawson Kendrick, Cash Fuller, Grant Sikora White Wolf, Guillermo Acevedo, Gage Gordon, and Billy Gann. We also had 5 students on the second team and 6 students that were honorable mentions. So those were some great awards listed for our kids because of just their hard work and dedication throughout their season. Not only did we have some folks going through athletically, but we had some academic things as well. We had some Michaela Pavel, excuse me, before I skip the next thing with Michaela Pavelka going to state in cross country. There were, gosh, I'm trying to remember how many, 150 odd, Mr. Truitt, is that about right? Runners
Yes,
at the
sir.
state cross country meet. And Michaela finished out 6th in that, which was huge, huge thing for her. So that was a great representation, not only for West, but also for Michaela and her hard work. And if I remember right, this is her 2nd year running at the state cross country meet. So that's a really big thing for her. So we're really proud of her. We had some folks doing some academic things. We had Haley Routson, who did some incredible things. If you know Haley, she is a superstar student involved in so many things, and we're super proud of her activities. But Haley was recognized as the top 2.5% on the PSAT from the College Board, which is awesome. You know, Haley's got some great academic futures ahead of her, and we're just waiting kind of on bated breath about which college she's going to be moving to soon. So great honor for Haley. We had some folks with our FFA groups doing some great things as well. We had Tristan Gatlin, Hagen Pierce, and John McCullough all finished first in senior farm skills at the Heart of Texas Leadership. We also had some students that were listed with a new competition with us this year. I know they may not be something that we're all familiar with, but it's something called Mr. Truitt, help me here. I'm trying to remember the name of this, Congress. Yeah, with the Congress students. So we had some students participate in that this year. If you're familiar with parliamentary procedures, it's very similar to that based on what Ms. Woodard and Ms. Pendleton have told us about. So we had some students that participated with that, with those being multiple places that we've received. I believe we had a 4th, 5th, and 6th place. I have that all listed in our high school report as well, so you can see those students' names there. But some really great kids doing some really great things. So we're super proud of them. And we just want to keep that ball rolling because it's done great things throughout this year.
Thank you, Chuck.
Very good. Thank you. And congratulations to all of those. All right. Our next item on the agenda is audience. There were no questions submitted, so that brings us to agenda item number 7, which is an action item on the consent agenda. You've had the opportunity, board, to take and look this over for previous days and ask questions. At this time, we'll open up the floor for a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented, with the exception of 7B2A, which is a payment to Socorro Family Ford for $2,933.18. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Kenny made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Lee has seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands or say aye. Lee, I think that's 7-0. The floor is now open for a motion to take up agenda item 7B2A, which is a payment to Socorro Family Ford for $2,933.18. Is there a motion to that effect?
Jason
Jason?
has.
If you second it, would you please speak
Second.
up kind of hard and identify yourself, because it's kind of hard to see on the screen. So Jason,
Holly
you
seconds
made the
it.
motion. Holly seconds it. Thank you. If y'all will do that on the motions on the actions item, that'll help me a whole lot, and Lee also. All right. All those in favor, please say aye or show of hands.
It's
All
everybody.
those, okay, there's 6. All those who are
One abstention.
Yep.
Kenny abstains, so 6-1. All right, thank you. That brings us now to the agenda item number 8, which is a report, the administrative and campus reports. Mr. Truitt.
Thank you. There's 3 pullouts, and as always, we will answer any questions from any of the administrative reports. And you heard Mr. Klander already mention some student accolades from the high school sheet during that recognition time. The first topic that we wanted to give you an update on is the West High School graduation plan. And then I'll go into an update on our draft 21-22 West ISD scholastic calendar. And then we're going to finish with a presentation on a new phonics program purchase at West Elementary School. And I've asked Mr. Clander to present on graduation. Then again, I'll do the calendar, and then Mrs. Adams will share about the phonics news. I wanted to let everybody know before Chuck speaks that we had a regional online virtual Zoom with Commissioner Morath, and spring activities and graduation, of course, was a topic, asking where he thought we were heading with those ceremonies. And really the only comment we got out of TEA today was still the 50% and the things that were absolutely identical to what we did last May. And so we need to start letting parents and students know dates and times and plans and all the other things that go along with that important event. And of course, we could receive news from TEA either way, where the 50% gets greater or it even gets reduced. It's hard to say where we'll be at the end of May here in December. We have committed to scheduling a student and parent meeting with the senior class. I do not want to do that before Christmas, because we've been told that we may get some guidelines before the Christmas break, along with some other things that he discussed today with us. At least some answers to the questions we submitted today. And so we'll probably do it at some point in January, early to mid-January. But right now we kind of wanted to share where we were. We felt last May at Trojan Field was a big success with a few things we can improve on. And Chuck wanted to share some ideas about dates and times. So take it away, Chuck.
Thank you again, Mr. Truitt. Just as Mr. Truitt was saying, we felt like this last year's graduation was an incredibly well attended and a successful activity. So knowing that our maintenance staff did a great job of helping set all of this up, we wanted to go ahead and start planning for another outdoor graduation session. We're looking at May 28th. That's a Friday evening at 8 o'clock being our primary time for that. If the event that we had inclement weather, we would then have a plan to move to that Saturday at 10 a.m., again, being an outdoor event. If that time the weather was still inclement, we would then plan on an 8 p.m. inside event where we would use the arena. If you haven't been in there to see the screen has been brought in and put up, the projector has been put up. So we have the capability for all of those type of things. So we have 3 different opportunities to have that graduation there on campus, and one of those being an inside activity. So those are the dates and times that we're looking at. As Mr. Truitt said, we haven't visited with any of our students yet. We really felt like that might be a good time for us to do that when we have our midterm semesters coming around. We'll have some time without losing academic time with them somewhere around the 15th of January. So that would be when we would release all of that, and hoping we'd get some of that information from TEA as well. So does anyone have any questions for that? Okay.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to shift to a calendar that I'm going to put up on my screen here for a moment. Let me just close out a few things.
Hey, David, let's make sure Mike is still there. Oh, there, because he looks frozen. Mike, are you still around? Yeah, there he is. Okay.
Thanks for that reminder, Ms. Croshaw. All right, let me do my share the screen. Oh, Ms. Adams, I need you to let us all be able to share the screen. Oh, thank you very much. All right, just wanted you to see up on the Zoom here, our draft 21-22 calendar. Again, it's draft. And really the only thing that's happened since our last meeting in November is Mrs. Adams held the district advisory team for me while I was out. And I just wanted to share with you some feedback from that meeting. Right now, we're on pace to approve the calendar at the January regular board meeting. Not a lot came out of the survey data, the DAP meeting, except a few things I'm going to share tonight. I believe we're going to be back with approving a calendar and probably hearing some things from TEA in the months that follow and even into the summer, where we just need to be ready to adapt like we did last year on a just in case basis as we see where the COVID-19 journey leads us. But I always think it's important to let parents see when school's starting and holiday dates as they try to plan some things and And we'll get this to them in the hopes that this is the final plan as we roll through the spring semester and the summer. Just as a reminder from the survey data and the DAP meeting, some of this you've seen, some of it will be new. We still are big fans of the midweek start there on Wednesday, August 25th. And we're big fans of the red days, heavy in August for front loading planning and work time and some PD. And so you can see a calendar where we start off on the 9th and 10th with new teacher in service, and we go into back to school in service there on the 11th through the 24th. Strong feedback from the staff that they liked having the trainings in the mornings and the work time in the afternoons. And so we construct a similar back to school calendar for that feedback. Also, we'll look long and hard about what we're covering. There's some feedback in the survey about having beginner and advanced type things based on where our teachers are in different learning pieces, whether it's technology or classroom things. And so we'll look at that as well. You can see September, of course, has a Labor Day there. October was another big discussion, and what came back is the 4-day weekend with needing that work time on the 18th, on that Monday, going into the second 9-week grading period. That Friday would be a holiday, of course, for student and staff. 5 days in November. And this calendar, while I'm talking about November right now, only has 2 flex days, which would be Monday the 22nd and Tuesday the 23rd there in November for when our teachers earn their flex time over the summer. You can see Christmas 20th all the way through the January 4th for kids, and some staff days there on the 3rd and 4th, and they really wanted the work day and the planning PD day. I skipped right over this black line here, and it's really important. And Mr. Klander even was talking to me about this the other day, about the importance that the staff would really like to see us go back to ending the semester before Christmas. And as you know, we've got it a little different this year with 2 weeks in January due to our start on September 7th, but we hope to go back to following the MCC calendar and TSTC and some other things and finishing up this semester here on the 17th. We had a long talk about what this means in the fall semester for days of 36 and 39 grading periods. But we feel with the 9-week grading periods, that's better than having 4-week, 6 weeks and a 5-week, 6 weeks. And of course, getting it done before Christmas is the key. We've got our traditional days of Martin Luther King Appreciation Day, President's Day, spring break right now is at the 14th through 8th. We wait to hear about spring break for MCC and Baylor. We definitely want the red day for planning purposes after spring break and a work time. April, I want to showcase here because this was another thing from the DAP meeting that came up that we had some feedback that they wished we'd consider Monday the 18th as a holiday as well. Have some concerns, and the 2 concerns are if we go with that, we just have a week and a half until STAR, and that's an instructional day. And then we'd have to add another red day in May. And so right now we've got this with Friday, Good Friday off, with the Monday still as an instructional day, but we'll keep getting some feedback on that. Then you see school ending on Wednesday the 25th with some end of the year, turn stuff in and wrap up grades and get some things done there on 26th and 27th, which would mean with Mr. Klander's plan that he just shared that he wanted to talk about with the students and parents of the senior class, that Friday the 27th could potentially be graduation like we're proposing for this year. And so this is where the calendar is right now. Again, other than that date in April, it's pretty set. There's some things that we're still looking into as far as spring break dates, again, for Baylor and MCC. But other than that, we're ready to go probably in January with having this on the agenda. Are there any questions I can answer? All right, hearing none, we're going to move to Amanda to give an update on a new phonics program for West Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Truitt. Part of the House Bill 3 unpacking that we're still doing is the phonics curriculum for K through 3 is built into that House bill. We already have Fountas Pinnell Phonics, which covers us in that area. However, after talking with teachers and administration staff at the elementary campus, we feel like we need to beef up that area in our K-3 classrooms and offer a more structured approach to phonics that also blends well with our F&P system. So what we're doing right now is I've gone to the commissioner's list and survey of phonics programs, and we've chosen 4 that seem to fit within our current program and would work for that purpose at elementary. Right now, Mrs. Costa is we're awaiting the materials for them to look at those programs. They're going to view those next Wednesday and start going through and making some choices based on a rubric that they'll use to develop their best choice, and then we'll purchase that and implement it in the spring. Teachers are very excited about this, and it fills 2 purposes. It's going to help our early readers as we continue to struggle at some areas with phonics and the building blocks, and also provide our teachers with a really straightforward approach to teaching phonics. So we're excited about that.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you all for those reports. If there are no questions for either of those individuals, we'll move on to agenda item number 9, which is a public hearing of the 2019-2020 District Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, known by the acronym FIRST. And Ms. Joanna Masick is going to take and present that, our accountant. Take it away, Joanna.
Good evening. We're going to go a little bit more in depth in the first report. And actually, I was joking with my son the other day. I said, I've got to study. And he said, what do you study for? I said, believe me, there's lots of stuff I can study. So this has been very interesting. I'm going to share my screen. If it'll go. There it goes. Okay. Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're good.
Hopefully so, yes.
Okay. Well, I guess the first report is the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. The report for its purpose is really just for its accountability rating system for all the school districts to make sure that they stick with their management practices. It's also designed to encourage maximum allocation of financial resources. It's definitely something that it really delves deep into a lot of the information that goes from audit and PEMS, and we'll see that in a little while, but mainly it was a tool to create, transparency and the quality, make sure the quality of the local management decision-making processes are on par. And I just wanted to throw these in there. The primary goals, and this is what they have put, TDA and first report have put on there. It's again to efficiently assess the quality, measure the report, make sure that their maximum allowable or allocation is possible. We've got a fair and equitable rating system. What I really liked was improve the management of financial resources. I think that needs to also be monitored and documented in this. And actually, I don't know if it's really done enough, but it also increased the accountability within the education system. So it's pretty robust. So the performance metrics for the first report are called indicators. And right now, the types of indicators are critical, solvency, and competence. The indicators tell you how well the district's doing and what efforts for improvement we need to focus on. The ratings are usually or always based on the analysis of staff and student data, budgetary, actual financial data, but mainly the annual financial report and the PEMS data. So this is the way the rating system currently is operating. So if you notice, something about the first report is we may be reporting our 1920 information, but it's data based off of 1819. So please keep that in mind. It's almost a 2-year backslide. So I just wanted to show y'all that there's 15 indicators on both of these years, and the ratings are the same. So, but there is going to be a change that's coming a little bit later. So let's start going through the indicators, and I'll try to make this as painless as possible. But the first one is, what did we submit our annual financial report on time within 30 days? I know it says November 27th, but that's only for June 30th fiscal year end school districts. Ours is due January 28th to TEA. And yes, we got it on both of those years. Was there an unmodified opinion in the financial report, the audit for as a whole? Make sure it was free of instances of material weaknesses. Did we pass? Yes, we did. Modified opinion is based off of some reporting or needs to be corrected, or that there were material weaknesses. So we haven't had either of those. Number 3, was the school district in compliance with the payment terms of all debt agreements? Were we able to make all of our payments on time? Yes, we were on both. Number 4, did you make timely payments to TRS, the Workforce Commission, IRS, anybody else? And that was yes for both of ours. Number 5, and this one's a little bit tricky. It says, was a total unrestricted net asset balance in the governmental activities column in the statement of net assets greater than 0. So basically this means, and did our total assets, were they greater than our total liabilities? So yes, they were, but this year, the data that we scored for 1920, it was not scored this year. And you'll notice that it was because of the impact of the accounting changes implemented by GASB. So the solvency indicators are, I think, some of the most important. Number 6 is just saying, do we have, how many days of cash on hand do we have? And this is really interesting. I didn't want to put all this data in here because I know I don't want anybody to go to sleep, but basically it asks, how long can the district operate with the cash on hand without getting any more revenue into the school? And we have cash on hand of 454 days based off of our 1819 data in this 1920 report. And anything greater than 90 days, it gives you a rating of 10. Well, we have 454 days. So that's over a year. So that's really, really good. Number 7 was the measure of current assets to current liabilities ratio, sufficient to cover the short debt. Yes, 10s on both of those. And the calculation for 10 is greater than or equal to 3. And ours is 9.5449. So 10s on that, check that off. Number 8 was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets enough to support long-term solvency. Again, it's the same thing. Oh, sorry. I lost my light. Yes, we got 100 on that too, or we got 10s on that too. It only requires greater than 0.60 to, less than 0.60 to make a 10. And we have 0.07. So 0.60, we have to get less than that, and we're 0.07. So that's again, really good. Number 9, did the school district's general funds equal or exceed their expenditures? And if they did, if they did not, then do they have cash on hand greater than 60 days? Well, we already know our cash on hand situation, so that's really good. But we scored, well, we had to have greater than 0 days on cash on hand, and we had 454. So that's again a 10. That's definitely connected with the other cash on hand question, number 6. Okay, number 10. Was the debt service coverage ratio sufficient to meet the required debt service? Yes, it was. The rating for this to get a 10 is you had to get greater than 1.2, and ours was 2.3329. So we're, again, can we make all of our debt payments? Yes, we can. That's basically what that asks. Now, number 11 has been quite a challenge for us, but we'll go in more in depth of the administrative cost ratio and the grade or the rating of 4 here in the next few slides. But just wanted to let you know that that is already something that's on our plate and we're looking at. Number 12, did the school district not have 15% decline in students to staff over 3 years? So basically, it's saying if we had 15% decline in enrollment, did we decrease the staff proportionately? Well, come to find out, our 18-19 data was an increased enrollment, but a decreased in staff. So it looked like we were definitely functioning better. So that was good. Got a 10 on that. So our next is, can y'all still hear me okay? Because my AC or heater just kicked on.
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, so the next ones are the competence indicators. And did the comparison of PEMS data to our audit report, were there any variances and were they less than 3%? Whenever I first started working here, this was one of my main objectives, was to get it under this 3% threshold, and we did. And this has been an ongoing learning experience. We're still learning on how to code items for PEDS data and for our audit. So it seems like it's a continuous lesson, but PEMS data is very good for this information. And so we do tie and we score very well on that. Number 14, did the auditor indicate that the audit was free of any instance of material non-compliance? Did we do everything we were supposed to do? Was it tied with a pretty bow? Yeah, pretty good bow. Number 15, did the school district not receive an adjusted repayment schedule for more than one fiscal year over allocation of FSP? So basically, did we have to pay any money back? And no, we did not. So that gives us a 10. So our total rating is a 94, both of these years that we're comparing, and it's superior.
Good.
Now, the infamous indicator 11, was the school district's administrative cost ratio equal to or less than the threshold? So this measures the percentage of the budget that is spent on administration. And to break it down a little bit more, it compares expenses between functions, instructional leadership, general administration, to the instruction, library, staff development, and health services totals, expense totals. So those are the 2 items that we're looking for. And that's the 2 items we've had a little bit of difficulty with. So what's the game plan? Well, we're still doing a continuous payroll coding review. That is not just a yearly thing, a quarterly thing. It's a daily, monthly, weekly thing. We're always finding new ways of breaking down expenses and coding things, and just new ways of trying to get our expenses where they should be, and budget wise, and also obviously for indicator 11. But I want to give props to all the administrative staff, because they have really put their thinking caps on a lot of this stuff and have found a lot of good information. And so we've used that and moved forward with it. But some of the main things that are going to occur in our next 21-22 first report was our function 41, which is our general administration. It's going to decrease due to business office staff. We're doing some transitioning. And then I used the template, the first template, and was able to find that based off of our audit numbers, that our 1920 data shows a rating of 6, which is great. So that means that we're actually making some progress even before the business office staff transitioning occurred. So this is good. This is good news. We're moving up. Oh, death by spreadsheet, not PowerPoint, Mr. Truitt. This is, and I'm a sucker for this information, but if you notice, so this goes all the way back and it kind of shows you where all of the funds are coming from, how it moves. You can see the first top is the instructional leadership, and it breaks it down between those four main supply categories. Expense categories: salary and benefits, contracted services, supplies, and other operating. And you can see the ebb and flow of how the other operating, what decreased and it was moved into other items. And so then same thing with the general administration, you can see how it moves, and it's interesting to see, what goes on throughout the year, so you understand how things are up and down. What I thought was interesting was the very bottom shows the PEAMS data. And if you notice, starting in the 2015-2016 year, our PEAMS data matches the second bolded amount, which is, look at 1,063,555. So just FYI, that was one when we first started tying to our PEAMS data. So that also helped with our ratings. So, and as I showed you on 1920, or told you on 1920, there's a rating of 6 based off of our tentative end of the year numbers. So it's getting better. So now that everything's getting better, we got our feet under us, they're going to make changes. So for fiscal years 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, they were transitioning. So the major changes occur with the 2020-21 report, which is based off of our audit year 1920 data. So the indicators, there's not 15, there's now 24. And the types are very different: critical, fiscal responsibility, budgeting, personnel, and cash management. A lot of those were still being used in the other indicators, but the fiscal responsibility, the budgeting is another big one, and the personnel. So I really think they're going to be delving in deep whenever they ask us to fill out the next first report. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I feel pretty confident with all the information that I've been able to glean for the prior years. So this is going to be, I'm pretty excited about going forward and seeing this data. So I get excited about this. So I mentioned that the indicators are going to be changing. The rating system is also going to change. And I gave you what we're looking at, the first report we're looking at today. So on the left shows you the rating for our 1920 report based off 1819 data. The main differences are on the C and F. So the meet standard is from 70 to 79 on the new rating, and it was 60 to 79. So it's going to get a little stringent for those C folks, but we are not in that category. So no harm, no foul. And that's it.
Very good.
I can't look at the screens.
Just like to remind everyone that's tuned in tonight, including our board, that this is a public hearing on the first report. And as Ms. Mosick shared, we received a superior rating. And so we appreciate the work of our fine business department. But we'll take any questions and do our best to answer them. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it out and get back with you. So does anybody have any questions?
If not, we want to thank Joanna for all the wonderful work that you've done on that. That is a massive amount of information.
Thanks.
Well handled. We'll move ahead then to agenda item number 10, which is an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve the 2019-2020 District Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, the first report. This is presented by Ms. Mosick.
Jason Yannick moves to approve.
Motion's been made by Jason. Is there a second?
Kenny Sikora raised his hand.
Kenny, okay, thank you, Jason. All those in favor of accepting the proposal as presented, show of hands, please. 7-0. Did you get that, Lee?
Just point of order. I don't think
With Mike, we're not seeing Mike
he's frozen.
or hearing Mike. Mike, if you need to text me a 4
But-
so I could put it down.
Yeah, he's frozen in this screen there.
Okay.
Okay, I'll hold off writing that until I get a text from him and then come back and let you know for sure.
Okay. At this point, it was 6 with 1 unheard from Mike until he gets in with us. Okay. Agenda item number 11 is a report on the 2019-2020 West ISD fiscal audit as presented and reviewed by the certified public accounting firm of James, Rettmeyer, Boyd, and Darrell. Presented by Joanna Mosick and Diana Ward.
Well, these folks are quickly becoming my best friends. I've got some besties. I see Baxter, I see Brenda, and I see Diana. So, hey guys, I wanted to let you know that this has been really easy. I don't want to say easy, but it's always a challenge. But y'all really, really helped me through this, and I really appreciate it because it was a little bit of blinding the blind over here for a little bit, but it's okay now. We're doing well, and even COVID on top of that. So thank you again, and Diana, on to you.
Thank you, Joanna. Dr. Sparks, board members, Mr. Truitt, it's nice to see everybody, and I am glad we get to see everybody. As Joanna mentioned, I do have our engagement team with us this time. Since we were Zooming, I thought, well, that'd be a nice change of pace. So Brenda Hernandez is with us. Brenda served as the in-charge this year, and I asked her, and she reminded me, this was her 5th year on the engagement. So we're excited about Brenda's experience working with the district. Baxter Jander was also on the engagement team, and Baxter was new this year. So that was our fresh set of eyes to look at the district this year. So I thank them as the engagement team. I get all the glory and they do all the work. Joanna and her staff and the rest of the district staff are very helpful when we do the audit, and we're appreciative of that. It's definitely a team effort. So what we're going to do tonight is Brenda's going to help me do a presentation for y'all, and let me share my screen. Do this the right way. Maybe. Ah, there it is. Okay. And we'll go over some prepared remarks, but if anybody has any questions, comments, feel free to interrupt us. And of course, there will be time for questions at the end. So Brenda, you can take it away.
Sure thing. All right. Well, I have the easy part of the presentation. As Diana mentioned, I'm going to start us off and go over the overall opinions issued and the responsibilities of management and the auditors. I'm not sure if Joanna sent out the report to the board members ahead of time. Okay, perfect. So if you are following along with the audit report, I'm going to start off on page Roman numeral 5, which goes over the independent auditor's report that states the management's responsibilities and the auditor's responsibility. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Sorry.
Over.
My finger's too quick.
Auditing said, yeah, Diana's ready to go home. She's clicking through it pretty quickly. But circle back to the beginning. Overall, the financial statements are the responsibility of management, and JRBT's responsibility is to get those financials and plan and perform various audit procedures to be able to state an opinion on those financial statements, whether they're free from material misstatement and are fairly presented. In addition, because y'all receive more than $750,000 in federal funding, you're also subject to a single audit. So we're also responsible to express an opinion on the district's compliance with a major federal program, that this year being IDEA B. So now you can go to the next slide. And this is on page Roman numeral 6 of the audit report. So this is all you want to hear. Y'all got a clean opinion this year. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. So that's good to hear. And I know Diana mentioned it, but let me give some more kudos to everyone out at the West ISD audit. Joanna, and I want to say Mr. Truitt, Amanda, Sandra, Sarah, everyone stepped up to the plate this year to help us complete this audit during a pandemic with the turnover in management, and just given the hand we were dealt, overall, we were able to issue in a timely manner and be able to present to you today. So you have a great team out there. You got the clean opinion for the financial statement. And then I can go to the next slide. And this is on page 53 or 54 of the audit report. You have to flip all the way to the end. But this is the report on the internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. We did not know any material weaknesses, and there were no instances of non-compliance. And so far, so good, 2 for 2. Then the next slide goes over the reporting on uniform guidance. This is page 55 and 56 of the audit report. And again, in all material specs, the district was in compliance. There were no instances of material weaknesses. And if you keep flipping on page 59 of that report, in the prior year, there was a finding related to allowable costs and maintaining semi-annual certifications and time and effort documentation. And as it's noted at the bottom that this is a corrective action was taken, so there were no findings this year. So overall, 3 for 3, good job, guys. And like I said, I have the easy part, so Diana will go over numbers related to budget and fund balance. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute and pass the mic to her.
Thank you, Brenda. As Brenda mentioned, we want to again kind of go over some financial highlights as a result of the audit with you as a board. And based on some discussions with Mr. Truitt and Joanna, we felt like it would be good to maybe go into a little bit deeper dive into the numbers that are reported in the audit report. So what I've done is this first slide kind of breaks down for the board the revenues in the general fund. And then it looks at where actual landed compared to budget that was approved by the board. So our first line item there is the local and intermediate sources. And you can see you had a budget of 5.3 million. Actual came in at 5.2 million. Local and intermediate sources, to remind you, are mainly the property taxes that are collected by the district. Of that 5.2 million, 4.9 of that actual is the property taxes of the district. And you can see compared to budget, they were pretty spot on, just off a little bit. The next line item is the state revenues that the district gets from TEA. The budget was 7.9 million. Generally, the budget there is based on estimated ADA that's used and submitted to the state for the state funding. If ADA is a little bit lower, then actual revenue is a little bit lower. So actual state revenues came in about $7.4 million. So you can see that's the big driver in the comparison of actual to budget revenues for the general fund. Your federal revenues, primarily what's in here would be any collections from FEMA and indirect costs from the other grants that Brenda mentioned that are part of the single audit. The budget was about $230,000. Your actuals, $563,000. And again, the district received some FEMA funding that wasn't anticipated. So of course that wasn't in the budget. And we'll talk more about how the FEMA funding has impacted the overall financial position of the district a little bit later. So as you can see, overall, total revenues were almost 13.5 million. They came in at 13.2 million, just slightly under budget. But again, knowing what the factors are that go into the state revenue budget, easily explained. And then what we thought we'd do is look at some of the more significant expenditure line items that are within the audit and break those down into a little more detail so that you as a board could see where this money is being spent. And Joanna's already referred to it. One of the key line items in the audit and for the district is instruction. And this is direct classroom instruction to the students. And so you can see there what the budget was by the types of expenditures. There's payroll, there's contracted services where the district goes out, enters into a contract for services that employees internally maybe do not have all the expertise for. Of course, we've got supplies and material, and then the other category is primarily travel. As you might expect, the district is able to budget quite pretty close to what they know they're going to have for payroll costs, and you can see there was a very minimal variance there. Contracted services was to the good, 106,000, again due to COVID, because in March there was nobody on campus and people weren't, providing the services. They weren't coming into the campuses like they would have been in the past. So that's generating that positive variance. Supplies and materials, the district did adjust the budget for additional costs that would be used for remote learning. And so made sure that they had those resources available and spent about $192,000 on that. And then, as I mentioned, other is mainly travel. And again, with COVID, there was just less travel. So overall instruction budgeted at 6.5 million, came in right at 6.3 million. Again, pretty close there. Another significant line item within the annual financial report is school leadership. And this is the cost of the principals at the campuses and the other leadership at the campuses. And so again, we have those same categories. And you can see, again, the district is able to budget payroll fairly close. Contracted services, just slightly over, nothing to be concerned about. And then again, we had some travel costs, but it wasn't used because of COVID. So there's a slight overage of budget here for school leadership. TEA will comment on any overages on budget, but it's not a significant number for the board to be concerned about. Another significant expenditure for the district is student transportation. That department consists of operating the buses and getting the students to and from school. And of course, for 2020, we had comparable payroll costs and contracted services to what we budgeted. The supplies and materials includes fuel costs and other things like that. Of course, with COVID-19, the buses weren't running after March of 2020. And then the capital outlay there, I'm glad this, I showed you this. This is where, when you purchase any new school buses, and that $379,000 does represent the purchase of new school buses. Joanna and I chatted just a little bit about that. The budget amount was there. There was just an internal reclassification of the budget within a function, which is allowed by TEA, that just didn't get made. So again, overall, student transportation was budgeted at about $830,000, came in actual about $780,000. So they were to the good $52,000.
I just wanted to say, of that $379,000, we did 2 buses, 2 expeditions, an ag truck, and a maintenance van. And so that's quite a bit for that amount. So I just wanted to let y'all know that that's all that's in there.
Thanks, Joanna. As Joanna's been talking about, I know that the district's been watching general administration closely because of how it impacts the first rating. And so just put this slide in here to let you see what the actual costs are that feed into your general administration. Again, budget was fairly close, or actual was fairly close to what the district budgeted. A little over in contracted services. Supplies and materials, again, with COVID, there just wasn't anybody, they weren't on campus, so they weren't spending the money. And then other is travel and other things like that. So for general administration, at least compared to budget, it came in to the good about $83,000 for 2020. And then the last major department or expenditure line item we want to review is facilities maintenance and operation. This is for the operation of the campuses. And again, you'll see here how the impact of COVID affected the district. Again, payroll is fairly close. Contracted services didn't, the amount that they spent was pretty comparable to budget. The supplies and materials includes the utilities costs. And you can see that that had a favorable variance. And of course, when school shut down in March, you would reduce the amount of utility costs that the schools would have. Other for this includes your insurance costs, and the district pretty well budgeted what that cost was. So you can see overall, to operate the campuses takes about $1.5 million. The district came in almost at 1.4 million, and so they're to the good on their budget, $100,000. So those were the significant line items within the annual financial report I just wanted to go over. So again, we want to step back, take a look at the general fund overall. And you can see, again, there's the revenue budget and actual, which we've already discussed. For expenditures, you're to the good on your budget for almost $500,000. And so coming down, just operating expenses, you're pretty much at break even, a little bit of a use of fund balance. The other sources and uses there of $458,000 includes the proceeds from the sale of land of $497,000, and then some transfers out to special revenue funds, specifically IDB and some other federal grants that were in excess of amounts awarded of about $39,000. So net overall, actual, the district was able to add to fund balance around $400,000, even though they budgeted to maybe use fund balance of $300,000. So in a tough year, that's a really good result. And I know management was tightening its belt and looking to make sure that they could account for the impacts of COVID the best they could. So then overall, if we added $410,000 to fund balance, then we ended the year right at $15.2 million of fund balance. And what this slide shows is the components of fund balance for the general fund. And those gold areas in there are what we call the unassigned piece. It's management can use it for anything. The green bar that's in there is the net leftover from the FEMA and the insurance proceeds that have been received by the district. And I'm sure you're aware that management has hired Cone Resnick to assist with the closeout of the FEMA grant. And so again, the district's been monitoring that because there is always a chance when you're dealing with these federal awards that if something gets disallowed, that money's got to go back. And so the purpose of hiring Cone Resnick was to have a consultant who could help the district keep as much of that money as possible. And I know y'all will celebrate the day when you get the final closeout report. So that's the general fund. I did want to mention and just make sure that you are aware, there are a couple other funds that have significant fund balances for the district. We don't talk about them a lot because they're for a specific purpose. And they have to be used for these purposes. One of them is the debt service fund, which is property taxes collected that has to be used to pay back bonds. Right now, the fund balance in the debt service fund is $1.4 million. And so as you evaluate your tax rate every year, that fund balance is part of that. And then also, as you are aware, the district issued bonds on August 31st. Joanna was like, yay, on August 31st. And so, as you know, you're working to build the new elementary school. So right now, the bond proceeds that are available to be spent on that construction amounts to $20.2 million, $20 million and almost $200,000. So those are the other significant fund balances for the district at August 31st, 2020. So on the last thing I just wanted to go over with you, I talked about the unassigned portion of fund balance, which is basically available to be used at management's discretion. We've been tracking that historically. You can see you've got a positive trend here for unassigned fund balance. And as Joanna had referenced, what your cash position is, a lot of times what people look at is, well, how many months operating expenses is in your unassigned fund balance? And right now, the district has approximately 3 months operating expenses, which is a healthy place to be and a good place to be. So overall, it's good to see that the district's in a healthy financial position. That was everything, Brenda and I wanted to present to you. And if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to take those.
Thank you so very much. School board members, do you have any questions since we are in such good financial shape? And it's good to know that. right. If not, we want to thank you very much for presenting that and making it nice and clear where we can understand it.
My pleasure.
This brings us to agenda item number 12, which is an action item, which is consideration and action by the board to approve the 2019-2020 West ISD fiscal audit as presented and reviewed by the certified public accounting firm of JRBT, just presented. The floor is open for a motion to accept as presented.
So moved.
Lee Crawshaw has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second Jason Yannick.
Jason Yannick seconds it. All those in favor, please show of hands or by voice. Mike, good to see you back with us. I think that's 7. Okay, very good. 7-0. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Diana, Brenda, and Baxter. I know y'all are probably going to leave the Zoom, so we appreciate
We're going to slip out.
all the
Dinner time,
hard
guys.
work.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks
Thank you
to the
very
three.
much. Again, thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. It's good to see everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too.
All right, that brings us to agenda item number 13, which is also a public hearing of the 2020 West ISD Texas Academic Performance Reports, known as the TARP. And then its annual report is going to be presented by Mr. Truitt and Ms. Adams. Amanda, David. take it away.
Actually, I'm trying to delegate more, and Ms. Adams is going to do this entire presentation. So take it
Okay.
away, Ms. Adams.
Okay, you should be able to see the taper report on your screen at this time. So this is the 1920 annual report. So our findings from last school year. This is a public hearing. We do an annual report that combines the taper, the PEMS financial standards report, as well as other portions of our discipline, campus performance, and our higher education coordinating board report. Statute requires that we deliver this to the Board of Trustees within 90 days of receiving it. So that is why we are meeting tonight to share. This is also accessible on the web through TEA at the link listed on the slide, as well as our website, and we will have hard copies available in campus offices and at the admin building. As you know, our taper report always includes accountability. This year, in 1920, we were not rated due to a declared state of disaster due to COVID. So this screen shows you that, that information. We were not awarded. I'd like to first talk about, since we don't have accountability necessarily to talk about, I'd like to talk about the special education and termination status. Each year, TEA also rates our special education department, and we are meeting requirements as you see beside the orange arrow on your screen. So as you can see, our accountability rating was not rated due to COVID, but our special education determination status was met requirements. As far as campus performance objectives, I just wanted to remind everyone at our meeting tonight that we are currently under the ESF Vision 2020 Race to an A plan. We are still working through phase 2 of that plan with our goal of being at an A within the next year and a half, 2 years by 2022. So all of those goals are still in place for campus performance. Another reminder that as far as 1920 STAR data from last year, we did not give the STAR test last year in any grade level or subject due to COVID pandemic. So that will not be on this year's report. However, we'll now get into some data that we were able to collect, including attendance, grad, and dropout data. First, our attendance for the student attendance rate. If you'll look at this chart, our state average is on the far left, then our region. The orange bar represents our district at 96.1, which is above both the state and the region. And then the 3 bars to the right of that are representing the significant demographic breakdowns in our district of 95.8 Hispanic attendance rate, which is also above the averages of state and region, 96.2 for white students, and 95.2 for all of our eco-dis students, which is a good rate for our economically disadvantaged students. We do also have dropout data for you. This also represents the state on the far left, the region in the middle. And as you can see, at 0.4 of a point, West ISD is far below the state and region dropout rate, which is something that we are very proud of. We continue to work on this every year to make sure we don't lose our graduates. The longitudinal graduate rate is represented on this slide. Again, same setup. West ISD is the orange bar here in the middle. We are at 96.1, which is above the state and region. Our Hispanic grad rate is at 100%, which we're very proud of that, as well as 95.3% for our white population and our EcoDis at 89.7. Our class of 19 grad type, we have 94.8% of our students earn a distinguished level of achievement on their diploma, and only 5.2% do not earn that. And so that is something that we work really hard on to get as many of our students to graduate with that higher level of achievement as possible. So we're at 94.8%.
And those that aren't, how much of that is the special needs population?
I will need to find that out for you, but I will.
I believe on the taper, it was only one was in the 94.8 lead, but I've got to check and see how many of the ones that weren't are in that 5.2, because that's only like 7 kids, I believe. So let me check that, and we'll get that to you guys.
Making a note real quick. Okay, so we'll get back to you on that. All right, our CCMR is another thing that we've been working really hard on at the high school and Brookhaven. Michelle Scott is helping us with this CCMR, and we are proud that we are at 84.9% of our students are receiving the points that we get for CCMR, which basically means that they have proven that they are either college, career, or military ready in one of 9 ways that the state recognizes. And so 84.9% of our students are doing that. We, of course, want that to be at 100, so we continue to work towards that goal. Our high school.
If I jump in a minute, Ms. Adams.
Go ahead.
On page 18, I believe the way we can interpret this data is there's 4 special ed students in the 2019 data. So if 1 was on the blue column, that means 3 were in orange.
That should be right. Yes, I didn't have that table in front of me. That's right, Mr. Tripp. Okay, for dual credit, West High School made a commitment in the last few years to really look at offering dual credit, and the district as well made a commitment to as many students as able to take dual credit courses. And you can see that in our data here. 55% of our students have dual credit hours when they leave us as graduates, and that far outweighs our region and state. It's a very good thing for our students. Having said that, we haven't focused as much on advanced placement credits, and you can see that in this chart because we've made our commitment to doing more dual credit courses. We did have 3 students earn credits through AP.
That's a percentage in 3 students.
Oh, sorry, 3%.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to clarify that it was roughly 6 to 7 students.
Thank you. In the class of 2019, the CTE coherent sequence, we had 96.9% of our students get that credit. That means that they were in a series of courses that led to the same endorsement pathway, basically. So maybe they were in the biomedical sequence and they finished a series of courses rather than just a standalone course. So it's showing that when our kids are committing to a program that we offer in the CTE strands, they're sticking with it. And that is a recipe for success for students if they're interested in a certain path. And as a career, it gives them a good head start. So 96.9 in that area is a great number. Our SAT average score is 1,083 compared to the state and local of 1,042 in our region. And so we are continuing to offer our SAT school day, which is going to continue to help us to improve the score as we prepare our students and then offer that test on campus. We've seen a lot bigger participation in the SAT, just taking it in the last couple of years, being able to offer that. And so we think that's going to pay off dividends and help our kids to be prepared and be able to apply for the colleges that they are looking to get into through the SAT school day and their scores, as well as ACT. We do not offer ACT at this time on campus, but we do have several of our students take either both SAT and ACT, or go take the ACT and see what that's like for them. And so our average score is a 22.3 as West ISD. In the class of 2018, our numbers below are students who enrolled in a Texas institution of higher education. So 67.7% enrolled of our graduating class. And then this number at 70.7 are students who enrolled in a higher education institution without a developmental course. So that means when they walked into the doors of that institution, they did not have to take any preparatory classes. They can start straight into their degree. 70.7% of our students who enrolled in a higher institution were able to just start right away without taking any remediation or acceleration.
Amanda, do you have any breakdown on the developmental courses when they do come out of school, the ones that, is it math? Is it English? What my gut feeling is it's going to be math. So
I could do a little research. We could know that based on their TSI scores. We could get a pretty good estimate. So I could let you know, because we do offer that TSI here. We are a TSI testing center, and that often determines if they're going to have to take that preparatory course. So yeah, I could get you some data on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we're going to move on to demographic data. And so we're going to talk about students first in our ethnic distribution of our 1,335 students. In our district, you can see on the left, 75.1% of our students are white, 19.3% of our students are Hispanic, and 2.8% of our students are African American. So we are not exactly looking like the state, but those have been our trends for quite some time. So that continues to be our demographic ethnic makeup in West ISD. Our total student enrollment over the past several years, we have listed here back to 2014. If you can look at the fluctuation there, we did have 1 or 2 years where it was quite significantly lower. We are at 1,335 for 2020. So it does have some ups and downs. But 1,335 is what was reported in last year's data.
I just caution the board on this slide, I'm sorry, Ms. Adams, that when it says 2020, remember we're talking about last year, 1920, because remember our current enrollment is around 1,250. So just a reminder, I didn't want you to think, remember our COVID, and we have students that have chosen other avenues, and we have 48 that we know have the back, where that number will be back over 1,300, but just wanted to remind you that that number is last year's pre-COVID.
Correct. And this is,
What'd you say our number is right now?
We were at 1,251.
this is broken down by ethnicities as well, for you to view. But yes, 1,251 currently. Here is a comparison of our district versus the state in the different demographic areas, including ECODIS. Our state as a whole is 60% economically disadvantaged. Our district is 40.9. So every year we work really hard to try to get as many students and families to fill out the information necessary to find out if they're eligible for free and reduced lunch, which is where this number comes from. In the last few years, we've been doing getting a lot more information back. So this number is pretty stable at 40.9% at this time. This also lists student disciplinary placements back for 18-19. So I just wanted to point out that this data is a little older. Our disciplinary placements at 2% compared to the state at 1.5. And you can see the breakdown of the last 4 years to the right of that on this table. Our at-risk numbers are 44.9% of our students are at risk for one or a reason or another. Those reasons include maybe things like being retained or failing a STAR test are just a few examples, and that puts them in a category where they're automatically on our list to make sure that we're providing, which every student we do provide interventions needed, but they are at risk and we do watch that closely. Our ESL number is quite significantly below the state average of 20.6. We're currently at 3.6 in this data table. That's pretty accurate even for today. We have not fluctuated a lot. In fact, you can see our number was 48 for last school year. And so it's typically in between 40 and 50 as an average. Our CTE, we do a great job of providing CTE courses and education for our students. At 41.6% of our students taking that route, some CTE course, compared to the state at 27.6. That's something to be proud of. We still have a gifted and talented percentage of 5.0%, which is significantly below the state average. However, we've implemented in the last 2 years some new testing methods, and we are using a more modern and updated test for that gifted and talented program. So I could see that number changing a little in the future. And our special ed number is 8.8% in comparison to the state of 10.5%. And you can see the last 4 years numbers there of special ed on that bottom row. And then this breaks down within the special ed number the different types of student groups. So intellectual disabilities make up 39% of our special education students. Physical disabilities are represented by 17.8% of our students in special ed have a physical disability, and 33.9% of our special ed students have a behavioral disability. And then the actual numbers are there on the right. On to teachers. Our teacher ethnic distribution is listed on this screen. On the right, you'll see the state. On the left, you see the district. And we have, of course, 91.4% of our teachers are white. 3% are African American. Excuse me, that number is a little off to the right there. 3% are actually Hispanic and 2% are African American in our district. This is our total years experience for teachers. I want to first point out to the right, the bar graph, and we're trying to make our bar graph as close to that state as possible. So we want a healthy representation of all the different years of experience for our teachers so that we learn from each other. On the left, you're going to see that it says that 34.1% of our teachers were 0-year teachers. That is inaccurate. This is what is on the paper. So it is what is publicly out there, but these were incorrectly submitted last year to PA. So at the top in red, we went back and figured those and found each person's name and how many years experience. And so the accurate data is at the top. We actually had 5.2% of our students have 0 years experience. But because the paper is reported in this way, we felt like we needed to present what was on the paper, and in red, we're showing you the actual numbers. And so those breakdowns, each one is just a little different, but the beginning year teacher is very off. So that should be 5.2%, not 34%. Okay, financial reports. We spent a lot of time on financial reports tonight. And so this is just another view of the total revenue and receipts. And I'm not going to pretend to be able to explain this to you guys, but if you have any further questions, I believe this shows very much what Joanna and JRBT were talking about tonight. So these are the revenue and receipts. Our total expenditures, of course, at the bottom, it lists how much the expenditures were by function. And so you have that breakdown. And remember, this is also available on the web, as well as we'll have hard copies. Here, this continues to be expenditures. And the grand totals are here at the bottom for the expenditures. And then total disbursements by program listed on this screen. Okay. And back to our wouldn't come out accreditation. I cannot say that tonight. Our status, accreditation status. Our accreditation status is listed on the TEA website. It awards, TA awards that status each year based on the combination of our accountability and financial ratings. And you already know that we had a superior financial rating for this year. And so you will see in the 1920 school year, the district was rated and accredited. We did receive the superior rating for the first. And I know we said it was not rated, it wasn't, but for this purpose, they carried forward the 19 rating. So both of these, of a B, so that equaled an accredited school district. So we are accredited. Moving on to violent school report. Each year we need to report any violent or criminal incidents in this paper report, annual report to you. So we're going to talk about the number, rate, and type of incidents, as well as any information specific to school violence. So in our district, there were 333 referrals to disciplinary action in total for the district in last school year. Of those, the action that resulted from the referral, 15 of those were DAP placements. 113 were in-school suspension placements, and 17 of those resulted in an off-school suspension situation. All the others were assigned a different type of consequence, if you will, but these represent DAP, ISS, and OSS.
Amanda, let me ask you this. Are those all separate individuals, or are those showing some repeat offenders?
It could be repeat offenders. It's in, if the same person went to DAP 5 times, they counted for 5 of these.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. To break that down, we also talked to you about violent and criminal incidents. We had no misdemeanors or felonies to report. However, we did have the breakdown at the bottom here. 2 instances of fighting, 1 of assault, 8 threats. There were 2 controlled substance issues, 1 alcohol, 2 tobacco. We added vaping because that's something we started last year. We wanted to keep track of how many instances we were having of dealing with that. Last year we had 13, and then we also had 9 bullying incidents that had to be addressed last year. Any questions on that part?
On the bullying, does that just at school physical bullying, or does that include cyberbullying also?
That includes any bullying incident that was.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Higher ed, we talked a little bit about how this included the higher education boards, coordinating boards, information about West ISD. So statute requires that we include this on the taper report to show you kind of what our kids are doing after they leave our halls and graduate. Remember, this data, if you'll remember from years past, is not last year's. This is high school graduates from 2018 that enrolled in a 2019, in fall of 2019 into an institution. And so you'll see that our numbers are, we had 9 students go to a 4-year college straight out of high school. And when you think about that, you have to remember those have to be public schools. So we're talking about UT, not private schools. So 9 of our kids went to a 4-year public university. 47 of them went to a 2-year college. And what we see often is that our kids will start at MCC and then they'll transfer to a 4-year college. So that's apparent here that many of our kids do that still. There were 7 who went to an independent college, so a Baylor, or any private college in the state. There was 1 student they couldn't track, and 28 they couldn't find, for a total of 19 students. Up in that 28, 29 students that are not represented here, they could have gone straight into the workforce, or they could be going to a state school that's not in Texas and to a college. So that could be a multitude of reasons why they're not in this chart. But I also do want to point out that it lists their GPAs if they're in a 4-year or 2-year public school here at the top. It kind of gives a breakdown of that.
Do they also track those who go into the military?
They would be in the not found or the not tracked mode. So in closing, remember this report is available at my hard copy. It will be on.
Can I answer that real fast?
Yes.
Larry, in the taper, there's a separate place for military, and it shows 5 students from that class for military. It was on a different page, and we can start adding that to this report. There's a new CCMR piece to military that I know Amanda will go over in January when we talk about those new board goals that we have to put in place that y'all read about in the email I sent you.
Okay. Well, I know in the past few years, we've had 2 students that have ended up at West Point, which is
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This year in particular, having 5 was a year that we had quite a few, and I personally know who they are. They are all doing well, I think. So
great.
So in closing, I'm glad to take any other questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
So is those numbers of people going on to higher education, are we tracking or able to be more specific about those kids that are graduating with X number of hours or already have an associate's when they're graduating, that kind of stuff? Do we have a way to track that group, that population of kids? You're not understanding my question. I can tell by the look on your face.
They are, are you saying they earn the hours in high school? It may be an associate's degree. You're wanting to know if we can tell if they went on and used those.
Yes, well, the reason I'm asking is there seems to be a trend that those kids that are getting an AA, research is showing that they're not going on to 4-year college. There's a trend in that. And so what kind of additional support can we give to those kids early on to try and keep them moving?
I follow you. And Mr.
You got her. I didn't mean to interrupt, Amanda. Yes. Remember, our goal from our past conversations is not for our graduates to earn associates. We're about core complete and getting hours, because the more hours, research says, the more likely they are to continue in one of the areas that Amanda mentioned for higher education purposes. Because from the class of 2019, I remember Sydney Patterson was the only one that had a associate's degree at graduation. But many kids that had almost 40 plus hours, definitely over 20 was another chunk, because we know this class well because it's Connors and Shelby's. So Amanda and I can speak personally about this class, but again, associate, even with what we offer versus what MCC, it would be very challenging for a student at West High School to earn associates without the early college high school piece.
Right.
Those 2 years.
Go ahead, Larry.
I was going to say those 2-year public colleges and stuff for MCC, for example, you get your associate's degree, but they go into the workforce. They're PTs, they're OTs, something where they come out with a 2-year degree and they can actually go to work and stuff. So it's a little bit different track than an academic degree.
Right. And I think that's what, because I'm not necessarily talking about them getting a AA while they're in high school.
Oh, okay.
But the research is showing that that the numbers are growing, that once they get an AA, they're not going on as much as they used to. That they're doing exactly what Larry said, that they're going into the workforce.
Yeah. And I don't
And
know.
so I'm wondering, what can we do to support those guys to try and help them keep that mindset of continuing on, even if they need to go into the workforce? You know, do we need to start talking to them about taking 1 or 2 classes while they're going on into the workforce to try and get that thought process in their head while they're in high school?
Sure. I think that really has to do with a lot of our planning with them, help them create their college plan, and then we hope they carry that through, and then make sure that we open their eyes to all those different opportunities. But yes, I think the majority of our kids that take dual credit leave here with 20 to 27 or so credits. I can speak for mine personally. But it would be difficult to track if they were to finish and get their associates after high school, how, if they carried out the college plan. We do write and talk with them about their plans, but I wish there were a better way to track it. That information is not.
Just being proactive and start talking to them about if they have to step out and go to work, what other ways there are to continue without being a full-time student.
All their options.
So to start a discussion while they're still in high school.
Right. Yes.
We really have to think through that, because that's challenging, because they'd be 2 years possibly removed from being at West High School. So we've got to, what we're learning, as y'all know, is we're just trying to get them in August to what they told us they were going to do, in May when they graduated.
That's our biggest right now.
That's still our biggest struggle, because I guarantee you, if Sharon Levinka was on this Zoom tonight, she would tell you that those 28 kids had a plan, and this is showing that they didn't go through with it. These 28 didn't make it to MCC or TSTC or wherever they were telling us, because Sharon would say every one of our kids are eligible and have done the paperwork and the application to go to either one of those, and 28 decided to do something else.
Right.
So we've got both challenges, is to get those 28 to the top 4 lines ahead of, above that one, and definitely fulfilling their goals of what you're talking about, Lee, and making sure they know what options they have after they leave us in the first year, as they go through with what they want to do. I agree with you.
To get creative, but yeah.
He would have a big role in that, and we need to have a discussion with them about what they're even doing, counseling wise.
Yes. Hey, any other questions?
Just as a reminder, this is a public hearing, so we'll answer anything.
Anyone in the audience?
If not, then we'll move on. Amanda, thank you very much for presenting that. I see even you did all the workload and stuff. David's still top billing on the presentation slide. I see that, so I'm going to delegate.
No,
All
I
right.
delegated to her to speak, but she'll tell you I made the PowerPoint. So I can't give everything up. I tried to give everything up. We were together at least for a majority of it. She was giving Ada to plug in. We were a good team.
Reading numbers, he was typing it in, and we got this together. Teamwork.
Well, thank you very much. That brings us to agenda item number 14, which is a report of the 2019-2020 West ISD English as a Second Language, also known as ELS, Program Evaluation Report. All right, Amanda and Danae, I believe y'all are going to take and do that.
Yes. Good evening from the ESL department. I will be presenting the 1920 English as a Second Language report. I want to thank you all for allowing me to serve the EL students for another year, a huge passion of mine. Thank you. I want to talk about our program type. We run on a pull-out model, and I want to highlight that the goal of our pull-out program is for each one of the EL students to attain proficiency in their English language. You will see our numbers for the ESL program for 1920 school year, and our total with all schools combined was 47, and I bet that Brookhaven might have changed maybe 1 or 2. I know you saw a 48 on the previous slide there. Okay, our district TELPAS test, which is our Texas English Language Proficiency System. This tests how well the students listen, speak, read, and write in English. We did complete the testing before our district went to remote last year, so we do have current 1920 scores there that you are seeing on the screen. And I do want to mention there, we see at that middle school level, we have some middle schoolers at Brookhaven that I serve. We see that advanced high level. Those students really move through that and get to that level at the middle school. So we're proud of that number there. We did have one student exit the program. And on the next slide, I'll kind of explain that. It was a little bit different due to TEA's revised COVID reclassification chart for this year. Since we did complete all the TILPAS areas, we were supposed to use the option 1, which when we reclassify those students, we looked at each area of their TILPAS levels, and each area had to be at the advanced high level. And so we did have the one student reach that. And that is usually looks a little bit different. Usually STAR test, the reading and the writing test are considered on that reclassification chart. So I did want to mention that was a little bit different for last year. Okay, the total number of our ESL certified teachers last year was 31, and I do want to report that all our English teachers at middle school and high school are ESL certified. As a specialist for our program, I attend professional development time to learn the most up-to-date compliance, and this slide documents those events and hours. Some additional activities within the program. I follow each student's data for the STAR, their TELPAS, their iReady. We look at also unit tests, and I use these to specialize the needs for each student in those different areas of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We also, we'll talk a little bit about parent involvement at the next few slides, and our recruitment and certification. I'll also be talking about that a little bit more. Of course, due to COVID-19, we did not have the 1920 STAR results. Okay, our stages of intervention. We have very specific stages of intervention that follow each student's specific data. A few are small group, oral testing assistance, their progress monitoring of their grades in and all academics, state testing preparation, the college and career readiness, translation assistance for coursework as needed, reteaching classroom assignments, one-on-one Imagine Learning reteach, and all of the elementary students receive instruction in our Fontenance and Pinnell intervention program, which we're seeing great progress with the students on that. Okay, our parent involvement will look a little bit different this year than years past. We want to promote literacy in the student's home, either in their first language or English. And so each elementary student will work through the literacy bingo card here that you see with their parents to kind of get those parents involved in that literacy for the kiddos. West did submit a waiver last year for 3 teachers. And again, I wanted to mention those 3 teachers were at the elementary level. And of course, our middle school, high school campus have those ELAR teachers ESL certified. And of course, we actively recruit ESL certified teachers in our district. The absolute goal of the program is to always improve the student's language proficiency. Some specific plans for improvement would be that each student advances at least one level until pass. We review the reclassification charts with students that are very close to the reclassification criteria. We want those students to see what TEA expects of them for that reclassification. Another part that we've worked hard in our district on is teaching the ELPs, which are the English Language Proficiency Standards. Those are equivalent to our TEKS in the language program. Okay, this completes the ESL program evaluation, and please let me know if I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Good job, Danae. Y'all know annually she has to give this report, and we always try to time it with the taper since they kind of go hand in hand when we talk about accountability and student achievement. And I know that can be nerve-wracking. So we appreciate you, Danae, and thank you for being on the Zoom tonight.
Thank you all. Thank you for letting me serve that population.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your dedication.
Thank
Good
you.
job, Danae.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to agenda item number 15, which is also a report on the 2020-2021 West ISD Return to Learn and Play Plan Update. Mr. Truitt and Amanda, did you delegate this one, David?
No.
Oh, okay.
Y'all know it's hard for me. No, this one's, let me share the screen here. I've got another PowerPoint, and we're full of reports and PowerPoints tonight. Click there, click here, share. All right, you'll notice it's our usual template. We said we would commit to having this as a standing agenda item each meeting, just to share with you how we're doing on our return to learn and play plans. And so this is the one for December. It's less than it's been in the past. So I think this will really help with letting you see how we're doing, even with this after Thanksgiving data that you've seen across the state and the nation and the world. As it's escalated, ours is actually reduced. You can see here's my chart that I published on our website and sent to our staff and others on this past Monday. And you can see where we stand right now with our COVID cases at 6, 1, and 1 on the 3 campuses, and then our quarantine numbers there of 16, 13, and 17. There are 2, what I'm just calling administrative COVID cases, and that includes all departments, child nutrition, custodian, transportation, and maintenance, as well as the administration building. I can tell you from this Monday report, there's only been 2 new COVID cases added to this total. And so our worries about how we'd come back from Thanksgiving and if the numbers would spike, we've been pleasantly surprised and very proud of our staff and students and families as far as how hard they've been working to ensure that we've been able to continue school. As you guys know, I had conversations with you in an email where I sent you that we were ready if we needed to go on a remote instruction quarantine plan if the data dictated it. And as you can see, we look good going through the 18th next week. And the only planning now we're talking about is if we need to have something in place for after Christmas. On the next slide, I wanted to remind everyone that our quarantine guidelines changed here in the last week with the Waco Health Authority, TEA, and the UIL all adopting the CDC guidelines of reducing the 14-day quarantine period. And I put this in yellow because there's 2 pieces to the plan. You can come back at 10 instead of 14 without a test if you have no symptoms. Or you can come back at 7 if you do the PCR antigen test and it's negative with no symptoms. And so now this aligns with the 10-day isolation period for a positive COVID case. So now we can easily explain to our staff and students and families 10 and 10. But if they're quarantining, you can see here that there are some pieces they have to hit in order to come back. On the next slide, I left this part in yellow too, because just because they come back at the 10 days, you can see they still have to mask up. And of course, we're doing that. But at grades 2 and below, they have to add the mask if they're not doing it on their own in order to meet this second part of the guideline. And so this is helping the nurses with tracking, since everything's now a 10-day period. We had the 24, 14, and 10 and 7. And so this gets it all the 10 and 7 a little easier to track, especially when we call the health department to get guidance on each of our positive cases. On this slide, I always add the current challenges. These are still the big three, and I even added there that not just for students, but for staff. We're having to constantly remind some folks about, if you have been tested for COVID-19, even for precautionary reasons, you have to stay at home. And I know that may sound like common sense, but it's just that reminder of, if you took a test, you're waiting for results, like the second bullet point says as well, you've got to stay home on remote instruction, or even a staff member stay at home until we hear if the test is positive or not. And so waiting on the results is a big one here. Right now, we've had some cases where they've still come to school or work, even with the test in play. They might go and get tested on Sunday. They're told 3 to 5 days, and then they're still coming on Monday. And so it's just making sure they all understand that that just can't happen. And then the third bullet point, one we're always battling, is if they're just not feeling well. We committed this year that even if it wasn't symptom related, that we needed them to go to remote instruction on a precautionary reason or purpose. And this is just a reminder for that bullet point as well. On the next bullet point, I just kind of added 3 things that we've been working through these last couple of weeks. We've had to rework some plans, and I put parentheses here with great success, because we've had some folks have to go out for isolation or quarantine purposes on maintenance, our custodian team, child nutrition, and transportation. I would just want to give a big shout out to Kevin Mailer, who's been piecemealing the transportation team, and Mr. Clander for allowing us to use Coach Dickerson, Mr. Dorsey, and Mr. Strickland, Coach Strickland, to help us drive buses. And what we have to remember on that transportation piece as I go through each of these is, at last count, we have 15 folks at the middle high school that could drive buses. And so that doesn't mean our transportation plan just halts. We just have to ask other people to help out with routes during a quarantine or isolation period. And to date, we've had a lot of people willing to chip in and serve. On the child nutrition outage or reworked plan, Ms. Garrick has done an outstanding job of filling in on both campuses and moving some folks around and asking some folks to come in early. And we haven't skipped a beat on our meals. We were without 3 custodians at the middle school, high school here recently, and folks reworked schedules, and we're able to share some things there. And I even saw Ms. Protka and Mr. Biles walking around with what I call the Ghostbusters backpack with the spray, the disinfectant spray. And so everyone's really chipping in and helping and making sure that these things are getting done when we might have a team member that's not able to come to work. I added this facts versus fiction. I've tried real hard to make sure our community understands if we do have cases, if we do have to close down school, what does that mean for all of our activities? There were a lot of comments about football season and volleyball season and looking at the cases and why didn't we close? And just to date, y'all know my plan is to have our kids in school. There's no greater thing than face-to-face instruction. We've shared with you our struggles with remote instruction. For me, it's a scenario that we're going to keep reviewing and figuring out other ways to serve our kids if we can keep them in school. And to date, our community stepped up. We've had a hiccup there after Halloween, but it didn't happen after Thanksgiving. And my hopes are that after Christmas, this Thanksgiving trend continues positively with our cases going down. And so making sure our community knows what our numbers are, being transparent, making sure they know even if you're out of school, you can still have extracurricular activities. Like, for example, now we're in the basketball season and you still have games and you just play with the kids that are not on isolation or not on quarantine. Same with the coaches. And so that continues. You don't have to be in school to do these things. In the eyes of UIL or any other extracurriculars, things can still take place through our risk mitigation planning. And then the last thing there, as we move into the spring, as you heard Mr. Clander talk about graduation, I was having a discussion, an email with Mr. Dalrymple about his theater plays, and we've had a request about induction for the seniors in the National Honor Society. And I know we've got a lot of things happening with TSA and UIL academic meets and debate and band concerts and choir concerts, you name it. And there's a way for us to figure out to do some of those things in person, just making sure that we're looking at the 50% and the risk mitigation guidelines being followed, and only being able to invite certain numbers of people and where they're being held, outdoor, indoor, auditorium usage. Here after January, we'd like to release some new things for consideration at the board meeting as we move forward to see some of these things happen. The big question we're being asked is obviously about prom. And if that's possible, I do know some high schools in our area had homecoming dances, and they had them with masks on and didn't allow outside guests, and they checked temperatures at the door, and they made sure they did the screening, and adults were limited. And so I know those things are happening, and we can review those things too and see what's best for West moving forward. And so I'll get with you in January with some ideas that we're going to put in place after talking to the nurses and sponsors and principals, and we'll let you consider amending or doing an addendum to the return to learn and play plans. The next slide is Amanda's. I know she wants to share a little bit about, oh, wait, I have one more slide. And this is a biggie. I apologize, I'm getting ahead of myself. I get asked a lot about the after Christmas break plan. I get emails and texts from other superintendents about what we're considering, and this is a very similar plan to what Region 12 is looking at for all districts. With our staff returning on Monday the 4th and the students on the 5th, obviously this 2-week period for Christmas has the potential to become a super spreader, just like Thanksgiving did. And so that 2-week quarantine period after the break is something that's on a lot of folks' mind. I'm going to wait for the data is what I want to announce by presenting this stuff that you can see on this slide. And really that second bullet point is the key, is about communication over the break to see how our staff and students and families are doing as far as COVID and other symptoms and illnesses go. And so we tried the emailing of the principal. We're going to add back our hotline phone number, and then we're going to use a Google form where our staff and families can report any COVID or symptoms or testing data that need us to know. And then we come back on that Monday the 4th, we'll have that data so we can make a decision about Tuesday the 5th if we need to go into a remote instruction quarantine plan for those first 2 weeks. And so you're going to see a lot about this in the paper, in my school messengers, on our website, and just overall communication with the community, but how important it is that they let us know where their families stand and where our staff stands coming back on the 4th and 5th. And so just wanted you to know again about extracurricular activities move forward. And so we'll just see where those numbers are as well. The basketball team can't play a game if the whole team's on quarantine, but obviously they can if only one or two or a few. And so we'll make sure we keep communicating all that information as well. So I'll get with you on that so you can see where we stand. Like I did over Thanksgiving, I'll keep the staff and families and you, the board, updated on our numbers as we get closer and closer to the 4th and 5th. And now Ms. Adams is going to share just where we are with some remote instruction updates.
I don't have just a ton to share tonight. I just wanted to reiterate that our numbers on remote enrollment are significantly down to 57. Of those 57, only 8 are going to remain on remote due to a medical note, or they're transitioning back within a 2-week period to on campus. 49 are in quarantine and isolation. As Mr. Trude alluded to, it's about half of where we were just a week ago. Having said that, last board meeting, the board asked me to prepare some data numbers that showed the 3-year span of interim testing, and due to some quarantine and isolation, I'm going to have that for you over the next few days. We had a significant number of kids who had to make up that interim test due to being on quarantine and isolation, and we're just about finished with that. So Mr. Truitt will email you that comparison before we let out for Christmas break. But I needed a couple more days because I want to make sure those are really accurate. It hit middle school hardest, and we need a little more time there. So I wanted to let you know that I will have that to you very soon. That's it.
Any questions? I will let the board know that we're rocking the PPE. I probably ask it daily. They get tired of me asking, do you need any PPE? So David Polonsky's getting that to the custodians and the teachers and administrators. And we haven't had any requests that we haven't been able to meet to date. And we have plenty in stock moving into January. So even our PPE is going well. And of course, you know about the almost 900 Chromebooks that we've prepared along with the hotspots. And so we have requests for the hotspots and we're getting them out. And I'm so glad that we were able to do that for our kids this year. I do want to let y'all know that we ended up with the 97 we received through Project Connectivity. Is that the name of it, Amanda? Operation, there's so many names for all these different projects out of TEA. Whichever one it was that gave us the 97, we've moved it now down to 5th grade. So we now have a 1-to-1 Chromebook situation at grade 5. So now 5 through 12, we have a 1-to-1, which is just amazing. And then we're able to move the 5th grade Chromebooks down. And so we've got a lot of amazing things happening with instructional technology in West.
Thank you for being flexible, and that's a lot of balls to keep in the air. We all are juggling, trying to get the best interest of the kids at heart, and we thank you very much for that. All right, let's go on to agenda item number 16, which is a report, and that is on the new West Elementary School design and construction update. And Mr. Truitt, I believe you're supposed to present that.
I am. It's a quick one this month because it's all about tomorrow at 2. Just as a reminder to the board that early tomorrow morning, Jackson Construction and Claycomb Architects will be on hand to open and start going through all the different bids. Remember, this isn't a sealed bid, so they don't at 2 o'clock open them all up and announce like we've done in some other projects. They've been turned in during this last 2 weeks. We'll get some tomorrow even. And that 2 o'clock means they can turn them in up until 2 o'clock. And so at 2 o'clock, they'll start going through the process with us. If 3 or less of you want to be a part of that, love to have you. And just for those on Zoom land tuning in, that's just because a quorum takes place the minute 4 board members are together talking about school business. And then you have to have an agenda posted. And so 3 or less can attend if they'd like to. I was told today by George DeJean that don't expect for there to be any announcement at 2 of who's getting the bids. They're going to take all that back. And then remember, we're trying to do a special called meeting to approve the bids on December 17th. And so they're going to let us know where things are and where they stand and give us a feel for what people bid, if it was high or low, and how do we look as far as our budget goes, and what other funds might need to be contributed to the bond amount. Because I've said all along, you know, during this COVID time, some of the expenses of this project have gone up just because of materials and costs associated with the pandemic. And so we've just got to make sure that we've reviewed all that and making sure that we know exactly how we can cover each thing for the new West Elementary School. So love to have you tomorrow, but probably the more important meeting is the special called one that I'm going to ask you for here later on in the agenda. But that's my only update. Everything else is going well. We're just in that 2 weeks of turning in bids.
All right, well, very good. Well, thank you very much. Let's go to agenda item number 17, which is a report also. It's on the Texas School Safety Center District Safety Audit Report Update. And Ms. Jana Protka, our EOP, is going to present that for us. Where are you, Jana? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Here I am. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yay. First of all, I just want to say, Lisa and John, I hope you're feeling better. We've missed you guys. And this superintendent has a lot of things on our agenda tonight. It's like maybe he was sick last month or something, but I mean, goodness. we're all kind of tired here, Mr. Truitt. I just wanted to go over with you guys. You have in your booklet or in your board book that you're looking at our findings update from our safety and security audit. On it, I have a list that I was going to present for you, but it's not working out for me real well. So you have the list yourself, but on my list, I've actually crossed off all of the things that we've already done. And we want to get all of this done before I meet with my safety and security committee and you guys in January. And thank you to our maintenance staff and Mr. Norris. They have really completed a lot of this on this list already for me, and done so without complaint. I'm so thankful to them. And thank you to Mr. Truitt for all the help that you've given me on this as well. In looking at the report that's in your binder or on your board book, West Elementary School. So the campus signage, I have a meeting with Ms. Mossick tomorrow, and we're going to go over pricing and all of that to get all of that order and finalized tomorrow. The delivered and checkout new parking decals for all the staff for West Elementary School, that's already been done. Thank you to Ms. Tacker over there for helping me get that done. The new visitor management guidelines, I am still meeting with the secretaries and we're talking about options of what we will be doing for that. So that is in the works. It's just a meeting, another meeting for me to get finished up with them. The new toner for the Raptor printers, that's been done by Mr. Crow. The new deliveries plan, Mr. Truitt said that he spoke to the UPS people today, the driver, and got that taken care of. So that'll get that knocked out. The next one is the new Knox box for the elementary school.
For the record, that was Miss Kettler, because I see her on the Zoom. So I'm sure she's like, that wasn't Truitt. Sandra ran him down for me. So way to go.
Good job, Sandra. Oh, and he delegated something again. Good job, Mr. Truitt. The new Knox box at the elementary school. That is coming by the end of the week. We have the Knox box. It just has to be installed. And we've talked to the fire marshal. I always mess up his last name, so I'm just not even going to try it. But Harold and I went to school together. So anyway, we're talking to him and he has to come and put the keys in it and lock it up. So we're just waiting on that part. Mr. Mailer has talked to the bus drivers. That's already a check. Asking the staff to wear their badges at all time. That's a check. The list of qualified CPR and AED certified personnel on the campus, Ms. Tabola has already given that to me. The new bomb treat procedures. I don't know, Mr. Truitt apparently couldn't spell when he was getting all this typed up together, but a bomb is not a treat. It is a threat, Mr. Truitt. I do have the procedures. I just need to get them out to the office staff. I received those from Jenny Yannick and the Texas School Safety Center. So I just need to get those to them whenever I visit with them about the visitor policy. Mr. Norris, again, kudos to him. Everything else on this list is done for elementary school. One that I'd like to tell you though, I really made the elementary staff a little sad because we removed the rose bushes and the crepe myrtles from in front of those windows by the office. It was so sad, but we had to have that line of sight open. So that was kind of mad at me. It's okay though, they're fine. The other part is the ground cover to ensure that the whole.
I hope we saved them to put someplace else. That's my first statement. And the second one is do we have badges for any contracted people that we work with?
They would just get a Raptor printout.
Okay.
Stickers with their picture from their driver's license on it. And part of what Ms. Protka will mention in January is what the visitor protocol will be is they turn in their driver's license, they get their Raptor sticker. The reason the toner is needed is because they're all faded and you can't really read them right now. And so the toner will help with that. And then when they leave, they get their driver's license back. And so we'll go through that method for every building in West ISD.
Yes. The ground cover on the playground and the holes or the worn trenches from like the water in those different areas. The maintenance crew has been out there once, but of course with erosion and the weather, it's going to slowly happen again. And so it'll take several loads for us to get that piled back on. So we've been there once, we will be back. So it's just a constant repair that we're gonna have to do until we get the new building, new school. We can't wait. So on middle school, high school, same thing about the signage. I'm meeting with Miss Mosick tomorrow. The parking decals are done. The visitor management, I've already told you. Everything else is the same thing, done. The only things we really have left at middle school, high school would be to number the stairwells and flush all the eye wash stations. Mr. Norris actually did the one at the maintenance building, and he said, Jana, that makes a huge mess. I need to do that when nobody's at school. And I was like, works. So over the Christmas break, they will get that done for us. And then the locks on all the unused lockers. We needed to get some more locks in, so we didn't have those fully completed yet. On the administration building, same information, same two things that we still need to do with the stairwells, the bomb treats, and everything else. And at the maintenance and transportation, same information. Otherwise, it's all done except for the stairwells. And then I'm going to do an emergency operations training with the maintenance and transportation staff. I need to get the bus drivers in on that as well. And I'm hoping to do that, hopefully, Amanda, January 4th if possible, but I may not have all the bus drivers there, but I may see if they could come for maybe right before lunch. If we're gonna have food, they might definitely come. So anyway, I'll talk to them about that, but otherwise I think our list looks really good, and I'm so thankful to everyone that's worked so hard to get it taken care of so quickly. Anyway, I do appreciate your help. I wanted to show y'all one of our walkie-talkies that we got. I love it. They are amazing. I can talk all the way to the elementary school from the West Middle School, High School. Mr. Truitt can call us at any time. If it's an emergency. He does love it a little too much almost. But we do have, there's a button on these that we have that talk across the campuses. And if Mr. Truitt needs to buzz just mine, he can punch that in, and it's almost like a phone. It calls directly to mine. We were practicing it here today, but I guess that's it. I let y'all go on to number 18, but thank you guys.
All right, thank you. That brings us to agenda item number 18. It's an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to adopt the resolution of the board to provide written authorization allowing authorized individuals to possess firearms on district premises and in other authorized circumstances in accordance with the with the West ISD board policy CKC local. And Mr. Truitt will present that.
Last month, we had to take no action on approving this part of our new safety and security plan. There's two agenda items that are back to back here to get the Guardian program piece of our vision accomplished. You have to first, before we do anything else, approve this resolution stating our purpose. And so I've changed all the dates to the December board meeting from the November board meeting. And remember, this was put together by Joey Moore, our attorney. And we'll do the three policies that then reverse not allowing firearms to allowing firearms by folks you approve that meet our requirements with the next agenda item for board policy purposes. So first we need to do the resolution. So tonight I'm seeking your approval, just in short, to create and start up the Guardian program for West ISD.
Okay, very good. The floor is open for a motion to address agenda item number 18 as presented.
So moved.
Lee Crawshaw has made the motion.
Seconded by Holly.
Holly Willis seconds it. All those in favor, please show of hands or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. 7-0. All right. Agenda item number 19 is an action item also. Consideration and possible action by the board to approve the amendments to the West ISD board policies, CKC local, DH local, and GKA local Again, Mr. Truitt will present that to us.
I know you've had a chance to review it. It's in your packet. It's the yellow, blue, and orange sections. The big one is the blue that added the most text in red, just adding the firearms piece to our safety program, risk management, emergency plans. And then the only thing added on the yellow and orange was the line about use, possession, and display of a weapon as authorized by you, the board, as spelled out in CKC. And so these are the 3 board policies that we must update that go along with the Guardian program. I want to make sure you all know that these are, again, just the first steps. What I hope to do at the January board meeting in closed session is to go over who we've contacted and discussed actually carrying the firearms, because there's a whole process and paperwork and things that must be done and approval, and of course the training this summer to make it happen. And so again, just the first steps tonight, more to come in the spring as we get our folks identified and approved and through the trainings that we need to have this ready for August of 2021.
All right. Thank you, David. Are there any questions for Mr. Truitt up to this point? Again, as he indicated, we have more information to do later on. If there are no questions at this point, the floor is open for a motion to address agenda item number 19.
So moved.
Lee Crawshaw makes the motion. Is there a second?
Jason will second.
Jason Yannick seconds it. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please show of hands or say aye. 7-0. Thank you. All
Dr.
right.
Sparks, if I may add,
Yes.
also in January board, and I just wanted to remind you that we will look at a job description for the safety coordinator position that will someday be our police chief. So we can get it posted and we can start talking with and recruiting candidates to interview. And so that will be on the agenda as well.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. At this time, it's 8:41. At this time, we will take and adjourn into closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Chapter 551071, 551129, 551074, and 551072. For those out there in the audience, we're going to be on another Zoom session, so stay put and we'll be back when we're back. Thank you very much. Board, let's take a little break to take and refresh yourself if you need to and stuff, and then we'll meet again here in, let's take about 5 to 7 minutes. All right. Thank you so very much. Board. It is now 10:09 p.m. At this time, we'll reconvene from closed executive session for possible action relative to items considered during the closed executive session. 21(1)A is an action item. We're going to turn that over to Mr. Truitt.
Thank you. Tonight, I'm seeking your approval of the personnel report as presented.
All right, we've discussed that at length.
So moved by
Molly.
Holly.
Holly's made the
Second by Ken.
motion. Second from Kenny. All those in favor, show of hands. All right, Lee looks like 7-0. Okay, that brings us to closing remarks with Mr. Truitt.
All right, we're starting calendar reminders. Again, 2 o'clock tomorrow, 3 or less. Just text if you're coming by, please. We've got some Christmas concerts coming up that I'll email you about. They're all virtual, so really you're getting links to watch it. But I know several of you love the band concert this time of year, and the choir is going to perform as well. Grade 3 next Tuesday night, a Christmas concert. Then the other two biggies I want to remind y'all of is next Thursday, the 17th. And it's probably going to be in a 3-event day if we do our special called meeting to approve the elementary kids that night. But if you can make it, we're doing we're doing the special gifts, which you know what it is, and the cocoa. Starting at 11 on the 17th here at the administration building. And then at 3, if you can make it, there's a come and go for Sarah Garrick's retirement. We're doing kind of a party for her. If you can come by and tell her thank you and we love her. We'll have a rocker and all that stuff, cake and stuff. And then possibly that night, the special called meeting. So want to make sure you knew of all those things. And of course, the last day of school is the 18th before the break. On the 22B, January is your appreciation month. Yay! Now, like I joked earlier, if we're Zooming versus in person makes a big difference on what we're able to do. So we'll just see where we are at that time. And if any of y'all are out for any reason, and we can see about doing face-to-face for that meeting so we can do some of the fun stuff with risk management planning in place. So I'll let you know after I talk to Dr. Sparks about it as it gets closer. That meeting is also my new mid-year appraisal. Remember, we switched the window, and so I'll have all my documents ready for you over the break, and to make sure that you can review those before we meet that night in closed session. Again, this is mid-year, not the final. Remember, this is our first time to actually get on the real window. 22D, this is what I was emailing you about that Stephanie Kuchera was able to offer us. By January 31st, we have to have our House Bill 3 work done on our early childhood reading and CCMR. And then the other news is we have to get the, what are the letters? EISO, student outcome training done by the 31st as well. And so the dates Region 12 offered are not good. One's school board meeting night, and the other one was like with 4 days to go in January before the deadline, and I didn't like that. So Kuchera offered to come on the 5th or 11th of January, and we felt like we could first do the House Bill 3 and then eat, and then have Stephanie do the EISO. So wanted to see if you guys could come the 5th through the 11th, and I can schedule it with Stephanie.
There's a free one on Friday.
Do what?
There's a free one on Friday.
She only sent me the January ones. Friday
No,
night.
remember I told you I was already going to that? And it's online and it's at 10 o'clock on Friday. It's through, I sent you that email that showed what it was, if anybody can attend that. Unless you're just wanting everybody to do it together.
I absolutely
Togetherness.
point because we got to do the goals together as a team of 8. Now, it doesn't mean don't do your Friday one too. You'll be the expert. But yeah, the goal of this is to have us all together on the one. And if we're meeting on the 17th, like I said in the email, I would love to do a subcommittee on the House Bill 3 so we can knock out that work. I know Lee will be on that one, and we need 2 more. So we can come to the meeting with some things already prepped for you to review and consider, including the things we've already put in place, because this isn't a new topic for us. What we were under the impression that we just presented it to you, but the bill says that y'all have to work through the process and be a part of the decision.
Huh.
So having said that, I know we're asking a lot of these meetings. If we do the 17th of December, you can see on my next agenda topic that there's several things we could do that night. We could, we got to do the DOI because the 30 days will have passed, so we can arm the security guards on January 5th. We would approve the bids for the new elementary. We'd name this subcommittee I just mentioned, and then we could finalize the plans for the batting cages so they can start on that over the break. And some of those things we could still meet on, even if the elementary is not a go. We could do a 7 a.m. meeting and just do the other 3 items and knock it out on a Zoom.
Sound good for everybody?
That 17th evening at 6:30 is totally contingent upon the pricing coming back how we envisioned it or hoping and praying. And Claycomb and Jackson can get it all done by then. So there are some what ifs there. So really the thing we've got to decide tonight is, am I telling Stephanie the 5th or the 11th of January? Or is there another date I could ask her? Actually, I have her email here. She gave me other dates. The reason why I asked for the 5th or the 11th is that gives us the chance to meet before the board meeting on the 13th where you could approve the goals. If we don't have this meeting with Stephanie before the 13th, it means we have to schedule another meeting in January, and I doubt y'all want to do that.
The 5th, is that on a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the 11th would be the following Wednesday,
No,
11th is Monday.
Monday.
And then we have the board meeting on the 13th, if you're wondering how all that works.
Okay.
And we have to have it done by the last day of January.
Let's do it on
Yes.
the 5th.
It has to be approved by then, so we'd have to have a meeting by then, but yes.
I vote for the 5th also.
We shoot for the 5th.
Is everybody good with the 5th? Everybody's checked their calendars?
Yeah.
We'll make
You
it
have
good.
to, everybody has to do the training, unfortunately. It's the required one.
And that'll be Zoom.
We have a choice. She wanted me to ask y'all. I assumed you'd want Zoom, so I'll tell her we're going to Zoom.
That's soon after the 1st, and yes.
All right. So I'll tell her the 5th. So that means we don't need to do dinner. We'll be Zooming. So let Amanda and I figure out the House Bill 3 piece, and I'll send you a time. Probably need to do 6, so we have a little more time before Stephanie gets on. Is 6 too early?
Right.
All right. So let's shoot for 6 on the 5th, and I'll let Stephanie know, and I'll get you more information. And I'll definitely let you know about the 17th, about the bids for the elementary. And the only other item I have is in November, we gave you the board framework document. Dr. Sparks and I Zoomed for his president's training the other day, and Stephanie Kuchera shared there's a new board framework. And so I put it in your packet because the one we gave you in November is no longer the board framework. It's in the back there so that you have the updated version. So I just wanted you to have that for your enjoyment.
It's always good. Thank you, David. Always trying to keep us entertained.
You know it. Oh, and because Jason mentioned this earlier, I had put on there also about, let me go back to the agenda.
Softball mound?
Yeah, the softball mound. It's under 10,000, so you don't have to approve it. But since it's a facilities thing, just transparency, I always want you guys to know. And just as a reminder, Guyla has asked us to put turf down on her mound because she originally wanted dirt. and it's not working. We can't maintain it, and it's getting all over the other parts of the field, and it's not even safe, in my opinion, as far as long-term. So we're going to take care of that here before their season starts. But then Jason and I were emailing about the batting cage building. What we're specking, and is that a verb?
Mhm.
What we're specking is when we put it out for proposal in the paper, we're doing 50 by 7, 14-foot sidewalls with a 2/12 pitch. We're going to have it, the walls black and the trim red and the roof black, so it'll match everything else over there. We want 2 12 by 12 roll-up doors, 2 walk-in doors, and then dirt work. The estimate is 18 to 24 inches of fill under the concrete. And so that's what you'll see in the West News as we try to get locals in particular to bid on this so we can get the best price possible. I wanted y'all to know what you'd see. Any questions about that? And this is hot off the press because Jason just asked me if I had the details, and I did. Maybe I told you I didn't have the details, but now we do. Any
Is
questions?
it just one building for both?
Yes, sir. But in addition, they'll still have the ones, on the field. So they have those 2 each, and then they'll have the ability to do 4 inside this building along with pitching. It's not just, remember the reason why we moved it to 50 by 70 is it's not just batting, but now it can be pitching as well.
Gotcha. Good deal.
And this is long overdue. I know they're probably bugging some of y'all about this because they were expecting it 2 years ago.
All right. Do you have
All right.
anything else? All right. I want to remind y'all about the tree photo of your Christmas tree. Post those. And the last item on the agenda is one for adjournment. Do what?
What did you say about a tree?
Oh, I said for the school board to take a photograph of your Christmas tree, if you have a Christmas tree, and just put it on the deal, how we text back and forth. So.
Who wants to see our tree?
Do what?
No tree.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the floor is now open for a motion to adjourn. I see Mike's hand up first.
Second.
I can't hear you, Mike, but I assume that you're making a motion to adjourn. Kenny seconded. All those in favor, say aye. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. It's been a late night. Y'all have a good evening, and
10:21.
Yep.
Whoa.